Hey guys, Mike here. So today, I'm here to talk to you about 1983's Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, starring Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. In Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, after a daring mission to rescue Han Solo from Jabba the Hutt, the rebels are dispatched to the forest moon of Endor to take out the shield generator for the second Death Star. Whilst this is going on, Luke is trying to bring his father, Darth Vader, back to the light side of the Force without falling into the Emperor's trap. And so we have Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. So guys, today's review was requested by one of our subscribers, Alex, who suggested that I should watch and review the original Star Wars trilogy. Before talking about the original trilogy, I wanted to go back and watch the prequel trilogy. Then after that, I was going to watch the original trilogy. I've watched Episode 4, I've watched Episode 5, and now the last movie in the original trilogy. So, what do I think of Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi? Well, first of all, I love how the start of the movie brings it back to the fun side of Star Wars. Because in the previous film, for the most part, it was really dark and really serious, and only at certain occasions would it be a bit light-hearted and goofy, but for the most part, it was trying to tell a serious story. What I love about this movie is that it brings it back to the more fun and goofy side that Star Wars can be known for. Because in this mission, what are they trying to do? They're trying to save one of their friends from a gangster slug monster. And in this sequence, they could have gone down a really dark path with this, but instead they kept it light-hearted, they kept it fun, but at the same time they made sure that the stakes were definitely there. I would say probably one of the worst parts about this sequence though is the way that Boba Fett is taken out. Now I'm not going to pretend that I'm the biggest Boba Fett fan out there, because realistically in the movies, he doesn't really do anything. Literally, all that he does in the movies is follow the Millennium Falcon, turn up just after Darth Vader reveals himself, and then takes Han Solo in Carbonite back to Jabba the Hutt. And then in this movie, all he does is stand around, points his gun, then gets in his jetpack later on to get into the fight, gets taken out really easily, and then finally is finished off because a blind Han Solo accidentally knocks his jetpack, causing him to fly into the ship and then fall into the Sarlacc pit. Wow, what a great character. Now I know in the extended Star Wars universe, which unfortunately now is not canon, Boba Fett does so much more, and it's probably because of that, that's why he's become such an iconic character. Again, it's not to say that I hate Boba Fett, it's just, I don't think he earns his iconic status from the movies. Other than that though, I don't have any other major gripes with this scene. And as well, I would say, other than Luke's story throughout this film, the rest of the movie does follow this really fun and light-hearted theme, whilst at the same time respecting the serious nature of the story. Because again, what are the gang doing? They're fighting an intergalactic space empire with a bunch of teddy bears. On surface level, it's very silly and very campy, and it obviously still can come across like that. But examining this scene a little bit more, it is very representative of the little people striking back against the greater power. Now obviously this still could have been shown if you had the indigenous people being about human height. You could still have had that, but the fact that they make these characters so small and seemingly insignificant, it really adds so much more power to it. Though apparently, from what I heard, the Ewoks were originally supposed to be Wookiees. In the end though, George Lucas did end up changing it to Ewoks because he thought the Wookiees wouldn't have been primitive enough for this narrative he was trying to tell. And another thing I heard, which I don't know is true, is the fact that they wanted to cut down the fur budget. I don't know how much stock I want to put into that one, it's just something I heard. As well, the thing that's really great about the whole Battle of Endor sequence, not just on the forest moon, is the whole theme of teamwork. Because if one team failed, then the whole operation is over. If Han Solo and his team didn't bring down the shield generator, then Lando and the rest of the rebels wouldn't have been able to blow up the Death Star. And if Luke didn't confront the Emperor and Vader, then they wouldn't have been able to defeat the Sith. So really, the thing that won the day was teamwork. And it really does set the rebellion apart from the Empire, because the Emperor, in all his power and wisdom, really has no one to fall back on. Even though Vader's his most closest ally, he still probably doesn't trust him as much as he probably needed to. But really, that is the nature of the Sith. It's about attaining more power at any cost, no matter who's in your way. But I would say the thing that really saved this movie from ultimately being incredibly goofy is Luke's story throughout this whole film. Easily, Luke's character arc throughout this whole story is the best part about the movie. The fact that Luke has finally accepted that Darth Vader is his father, so he tries to bring him back to the light, but despite resistance from Vader and the Emperor, he still doesn't let go of the fact that he can bring Vader back. And towards the end, it seems like Luke is going to give in to the dark side and destroy his father, but in a way which shows the true power that Star Wars can reach. Luke looks at his hand, his mechanical hand, and sees that he's becoming his father. He's lopped off Vader's hand and seen there's nothing left there but a machine arm. And it's in this scene he realises, what difference is there between me and my father? And at that point, Luke did what his father could not. He said no to the Emperor. He said no to the dark side, even at what could have been the expense of his life. And then the Emperor, seeing that he's failed to turn Luke Skywalker, instead goes to destroy him. And then this, for me, leads into the worst change that George Lucas made in remastering the original trilogy. Now, I haven't had massive problems with George Lucas's remasters like some people have, but for me, this is easily the worst one. The fact that in the original cut, Vader says absolutely nothing before betraying the Emperor. It just allows the cinematography, the lighting, the music, everything to do the work for him. All he does is look at his son, look at the Emperor, look at his son again, and then finally decides, no, I'm not going to let you destroy my son. Picks up the Emperor, throws him into the pit, the Emperor's dead. Awesome. Great iconic Star Wars scene. But the change that really ruins this scene is the dialogue that George Lucas decided to add in this scene. He decided that Vader should go, no, no! And at the same time, I'm there like, no, why did you do that? It basically comes down to this whole thing of showing and not telling. We as the audience can make up in our mind what Vader is going through, but you don't need to actually tell us. Really, nothing is gained from Vader saying these lines. If anything, it just takes away from the scene. I even remember being like 9, 10 years old and really appreciating the genius of this scene originally, but then I was really disappointed to hear this new version. But apart from that though, everything else in the scene is just phenomenal. The performances from Mark Hamill, David Prowse, James Earl Jones, and of course Ian McDiarmid, who made his first appearance as Darth Sidious in this movie. Before this movie, we've been really just teased about the Emperor, not knowing who he is, not exactly knowing what he looks like. In the previous movie, we get a little bit of a glimpse of what he looks like, but then obviously they changed the actor, and then we finally get to see the Emperor in all his magnificence. Now, I really praise Ian McDiarmid for his role in Revenge of the Sith as Darth Sidious, but really, I doubt he would have been able to play Sidious as well as he did in that movie without putting in the work that he did in this movie first. Ian McDiarmid's Emperor Palpatine is everything you would imagine a dark Lord of the Sith to be. Conniving, cunning, despicable, evil. All of these qualities are shown in Ian McDiarmid's performance, but at the same time, he does have a unique charm which makes you gravitate towards this character and make you hang on his every word. Because really, if Ian McDiarmid played this character the same way that the previous actor did in the other movie, then you wouldn't have got anywhere close to the iconic character that he stands as today. So ultimately, again, I would say that the scenes between Vader, the Emperor, and Luke are the absolute highlights of this movie, and probably some of the biggest highlights of the original trilogy. Even though Han, Leia, Lando, and the rest are doing the more important mission of destroying the Death Star, it's Luke who ultimately destroys the evil of the galaxy. Because while this is a very small and contained kind of story, it does make it feel larger than life and make it feel like the space opera that we all know. And then we see one of the better changes that George Lucas made in the remastering. In the celebration, not only do we see Bespin and Tatooine, but we also see Naboo and we also see Coruscant as well. And it was just another brilliant way of tying the original trilogy to the prequel trilogy. And then just before the final shot, we see the ghost of Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker standing next to Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan and Yoda. I haven't looked up who played Anakin in this original scene, but for me, seeing Hayden Christensen in this moment, a redeemed Jedi, was just such a powerful moment and definitely a welcome change, thus ending the original Star Wars trilogy. Overall, guys, though I do think Return of the Jedi is the weakest of the original 3 movies, that does not stop it from being the great movie that it is. It really manages to balance so many different tones, sometimes all in the same instance. It can be light-hearted and goofy, but at the same time it can be really dark and serious, and it all manages to fit brilliantly together in this final chapter. But I would say that ultimately, after watching the original trilogy again, it does reaffirm my love for the prequels. Because by no stretch of the imagination am I saying that the original trilogy is bad, far from it. It's just watching this original trilogy really just makes me love the prequels even more. Because for me, Star Wars has been the prequels. They're the movies that I grew up with. They're the movies that pretty much carried me through my childhood. Obviously there were other movies at the time, but for Star Wars, those were the 3 movies that I just loved the most, and still do to this day. But really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you love the original trilogy most, or the prequel trilogy most, or even the sequel trilogy most. What we can all agree on is that we all love Star Wars, no matter what form it takes. Sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be bad. But ultimately, Star Wars can be anything that we want it to be. Sometimes welcome, sometimes unwelcome. It's up for you to decide. Okay guys, that's my review of Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think I should watch next? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!